This is my first live weekly astrology forecast, and I got butterflies right before I press record. So, this is something that I know I was meant to do. Um, but hello and welcome to your weekly astrology forecast. My name is Laura Chung. I'm a Western tropical astrologer. And if you want to join the live weekly astrology forecast every Sunday, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, I started my Patreon again, and that is $5 a month. And if you want to receive monthly forecast for your rising sign, that's an extra $5 per month. And I'm kind of playing around with that. Like, I don't know if this is something that will lock in, and I'm kind of experimenting right now with all these planets retrograde, especially Mercury in Leo, which is transiting my ninth house of teaching and astrology. So thank you so much for all of you who signed up and supported. The second thing is I am teaching Astrology 101 September 1st, but I have a little form that you can fill out so I can get an idea of what people are interested in, what level you're at, and also how much you would be capable of paying at this time, because I want to work with everybody's capacity and make it as accessible as possible. I'm really excited because this Cancer season, I mean, womp womp, Cancer season was a little heavy and rough for me. As I've mentioned in previous forecasts, Cancer is my eighth house. I'm in an eighth house perfection year. The moon is my time lord. And I've just been going through a lot of like subconscious reprogramming and really getting clear on what it is that I desire. That's all like the fire energy in the air and now going retrograde. So I'm really excited to kind of share all of what I've been, I guess, like learning about and what I've been going through, in the hopes that maybe you're going through something similar, as we are all a collective energy, and I'm sure that everyone is going through this at the same time. So for recap, really the two biggest news stories that I witnessed or I observed was related to Mercury retrograde and also Uranus entering the sign of Gemini on July 17th. I don't know if you saw it. I don't know who didn't see it, but Chris Martin from Coldplay was, I don't know exactly where they were playing, but he put the kiss cam on, and it panned to this couple that were like kind of, you know, swaying to the music, and then they quickly like went off camera, and it was the astronomer CEO cheating on his wife with the HR director, right? That's very Mercury retrograde. And I mentioned in last week's forecast that expect the archetype of Leo to be CEOs, presidents, famous people, and kind of exposing some of their, I guess, abuses of power or scandalous kind of stories. Um, and then like the whole world kind of saw, and yikes. And I think since then he has stepped down from his role, which is very like it's very like Leo energy, right? Like the leader kind of being um exposed for his wrongdoings. And then on July 18th, which is the day Mercury stationed retrograde, Stephen Colbert was fired because he, I guess, criticized the network's parent company for a settlement with Trump, and he called it a bribe. And so I thought this was also working in tandem with Uranus and Gemini, because Gemini is the news, Uranus is technology, and I already mentioned this in a couple of I think it was two weekly forecasts ago, that every Uranus and Gemini transit portended to some disruption or breakthrough or innovation or change in the way we receive news and information. So I think this is just another example of the consolidation of power and the fact that all news comes from like one source now. That's very troubling and very worrying, because Stephen Colbert was essentially just calling out the fact that the network was settling with Trump because Trump was suing. I think it was CBS is where Colbert's show lives under, the parent company. Um, and this is just like, you know, um, basically just because you criticize the president, then you have a settlement with the president. And then if you say anything against the network, or um, if you say anything that dissents to what the media propaganda machine wants you to believe, then you're going to be fired and canceled. So I thought this was really like a really big deal. We'll see what happens because this is the day it's stationed. And so we'll see what happens when Mercury goes forward, if they, I don't know, change their mind, or maybe for Stephen specifically, he goes to another network. Um, I didn't look at Stephen's chart, but I should have done that. Maybe I'll do that after this and report back on a TikTok or something. But yeah, that like this whole week was just witnessing how media is going to be more and more censored and consolidated into one power to really be the mouthpiece for fascism. And of course, last but not least, Gaza is starving, has been starving. And when people, I've noticed, like post this on Instagram, they'll say, what else is there to say? What else have we not said? But I just want to encourage people to keep talking about it. Um, this week, the Israeli occupation forces bombed this church in Gaza that Pope Francis had been calling weekly every Sunday, and they bombed that church. And I sent that post to my mother, and I encouraged her to speak up at her church, her Christian church. I encouraged her to talk about it with her friends, because although you might not be able to sway the minds of your followers, if you have followers, if you have social media, or you can't change the minds of millions and millions of people, you can help bring awareness to people in your community, like your immediate community, whether it's your family, whether it's your coworkers, your friends, people who you surround yourself with. Like, I continue to bring up Palestine to every, like, people around me. I wear my keffiyeh, I wear my little Palestine pin, I have my little Hello Kitty Palestine stickers. Like, I make it known that this is a topic that's on my mind and at the forefront of everything that I do. And I bring it up in conversation, and it doesn't, like, I don't care if it makes you uncomfortable. You know what's uncomfortable? Watching babies dying to death because of starvation, people being murdered every day. So this is the time to work on your people pleasing thing, and whatever it is that's continuing to hold you back. This is why I constantly say, like, the revolution begins from within. This is internal work of why people are silent. I think people are silent because they're afraid. I think people are silent because they're cowards, and that they're afraid of ruffling feathers. Well, we need to ruffle some feathers. And I think even changing one person's mind is worth it. So I encourage everybody to continue to speak up, because this is our responsibility as people in living in privilege in the imperial core. It's our job to dismantle the empire from within. If you've ever watched any Star Wars movies, this is taking down the Death Star, if you will. And this is our responsibility to take care of each other, because we are all one. Like, and I really mean that. Like, if something happens to people in Gaza, and if something happens to people in the Sudan, the Congo, right here in the United States, people who have been affected by the flooding, the fires, this impacts us directly, energetically, spiritually, emotionally. And so all of this internal turmoil that we've all been going through is a result of us shifting with the times, because that's what is needed. We are literally co-creating something completely new. At least that is what I pray that we are doing, and not replicating harm from the past. So, with that being said, the astrology forecast, I kind of want to, of course, I'll break it down day by day, but I really want to paint a global picture for you. Um, so we currently have multiple planets retrograde. We are in retrograde season. We have Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, and now Mercury. And a lot of the planets that are transiting the sky at this moment, the personal planets, are being ruled by that Mercury. So Venus in Gemini, Mars in Gemini, are talking to that Mercury, because Mercury rules two signs, Virgo and Gemini. And those are two personal planets that describe our yin and yang, our feminine and masculine energies. So Mars is the planet of action and doing and getting shit done. And Venus is our feminine aspect of attraction and receptivity. And both of them are speaking to that Mercury. Now, I loved what my fellow astrologer Shahir said. Shahir from Suprasensory, I think that's their handle on Instagram, said about this Mercury retrograde, because Mercury had different flavors. So in the first couple of days of Mercury retrograde, Mercury, which is in the sign of Leo, was answering to the sun in Cancer. Um, and so Mercury was answering to the sun that was more about the internal realm, our emotional body, our memories, our ties to the past and family and home, our internal safety and security. And because Cancer is a cardinal water sign, it has a very different energy than a fixed fire sign like Leo, which, um, when Mercury stationed retrograde, that was July 18th. And on July 22nd, I believe, the sun will, oh yeah, the sun, which is this week, July 22nd, the sun will enter Leo, and Mercury will be speaking to um, the sun in its domicile, which is about like um, heart openness, being seen. This is who I am, remembering why you're here, your like fire, your energy, your creative expression. Um, and so Mercury retrograde for like the first 4 days was kind of like um, what Shahir said was retrieving something from the past. Retrograde is reviewing and looking back. I call them timeline shifts to a past moment where maybe you rushed through something or you made a decision, and this is like the universe being like giving you another chance and saying, let's go back, let's go see if this is actually what you want to do, let's review it. So Mercury is bringing you back to June 30th ish. This is when Mercury was in its pre-shadow. So all of June was when Mercury was in its pre-shadow. So June topics will come back up to kind of review. And so if there was something that you've wanted to say or that you wanted to um, put out there, because Leo is this sign of knowing your worth and knowing your value and having a very clear vision of who you are. A shadowy Leo is somebody that doesn't know that and requires external validation, which is why I think Leos get this stereotype of being obsessed with attention and wanting to be the center of attention, right? Even though most of the Leos I know are not like that, but that's where the Leo gets its shadow from. It's like, I don't feel worthy, so I need to get that external validation from others. Leo is a perfect example of as within, so without. When Leo feels internally that they have what it takes and have their natural gifts and talents of, uh, you know, being seen and also expression, then they attract everything to them. They attract the light. And Leos have this natural glow about them. It's like something that you can't deny, right? This natural gift of expression, which is why Leo also rules things like actresses and actors in Hollywood and famous people. So, yeah, you want to think about what it is during this time that you are trying to retrieve back from the past. Was it a hidden talent that you kind of kept hidden because you were afraid that it was weird or that you wouldn't be accepted? A childhood dream, because Cancer to Leo is very like childhood energy, a childhood dream you kind of put in the back burner, um, some kind of way you want to express something, um, maybe like improv or comedy, or you want to get into acting, or you're a theater kid, whatever it is that maybe you were told by your parents, or you got in your head about it because a teacher told you you weren't talented enough. You're retrieving those things back and saying, this is my moment that now I want to do this. And a quote that I posted on my Instagram by my friend Karen Atia, she said this when I met her for the first time a couple of weeks ago now, that if empire is dying, you might as well follow your dreams. And another quote that my friend Kim said, Kim Saida, it's our personal responsibility and duty to follow our dreams, because I think, well, for me personally, I grew up with immigrant parents who are boomers. So, growing up, having fun, following your pleasure, creativity, art, all of these things were seen as frivolous. And I think I understand now, like, obviously, they grew up in a post war Korea, colonial rule Korea, and they didn't really have the luxury to follow their dreams necessarily. So it's like I understand where they're coming from now, but squashing my dreams and telling me that it was unrealistic was also really damaging. So I feel like now, as a 40 something woman, I'm kind of like retrieving and reclaiming those things that I once thought were not possible, because one, I wanted, to make my parents proud. Um, I also maybe didn't believe that I could do it, maybe because of like lack of self-esteem or self-confidence, whatever the things may be. But I realized that in order for me to truly be in my authentic self, which Leo and Aquarius are all both about that, they just go about it in different ways, then I need to honor those things about me that I've like shoved to the side because I said that they were frivolous. And I feel like now is the moment that all of us need to really be clear on that. And that is, I think, the vibe of what's going on in the astrology, like overall, like the bigger picture. Of course, this is separate from mundane astrology, which is like what's happening politically, what's happening all around us. This is like personal to you. and how I personally believe this is our role, like figuring out your role in the revolution, collective liberation, whatever it is, in order for us to create and imagine something new. Saturn and Neptune and Aries. It's our personal responsibility to figure this out for ourselves. On July 21st, Venus in Gemini will square the nodes at 19 degrees of Pisces. And this is called the bendings. This is in ancient astrology when one planet was square to the north and south node. And then you see where, like, which direction is it bending towards, the north or the south bending. And this happens to be a north bending. So the north node is the head of the dragon. It's Rahu. This is about trying to manifest something in the physical reality. And so it has this energy of increasing and wanting and kind of obsessing a little bit, but um, not really knowing exactly how to integrate this archetype. And the south node is the tail of the dragon. It's K2. It's decreasing, it's releasing. And on July 20th, which is the day that I'm filming this, Mars will conjunct the south node, and Mars has a severing quality. So, Mars with the south node, I think all of us are going to have to release and let go of something. Perfectionism, if you will, the need to like hyper criticize, judge, like be judgmental about something, be super analytical. And Venus bending at the nodes with the north bending, this is really trying to tell us symbolically and also spiritually that we need to trust more in the divine. Pisces is a mutable water sign ruled by Jupiter. Have faith. Continue on our spiritual practices, whatever that is for you, finding the divinity within us, and then moving it through our bodies, South Node in Virgo. And Venus in Gemini is this it's this transit all about forming bonds, being curious, trying to kind of like what I was mentioning about um like just continuing to talk to people, even if you have differing political views, even if you, I'm not saying like abusive people, I'm just saying the only way we are going to have collective liberation is to find the common ground, right? And what I love about Gemini energy is the ability to literally talk to anybody. This is obviously like surface level conversation, it's picking up data points, and Venus is relational, right? It's about forming bonds and trying to get, trying to understand people and the way that they think. Where does that come from, right? So Venus is in a Mercury ruled sign. And so I think what this is saying with Venus squaring the node and being north bending is remembering that we are all one. This is like, romantic in theory, and it's like cute in theory, but when you have a Trump supporting neighbor or a racist uncle and all this kind of stuff, it's like, how can we find common ground with people and not like, and understanding you can't change people, right? But how can you plant the seeds? How can you plant the seeds and try to get people to understand things, or help them, usher them, guide them in understanding that it's us, we the people, against an oligarchy, a broligarchy. You know what I mean? And this is not easy, and I'm not saying that by any means, which which is why it's described as Venus in Gemini squaring the nodes. This is like a crisis point. And what needs to happen is a repairing, um, remembering that, like, we are all products of how we grew up, we are all products of propaganda, and it's way easier to write people off and say, oh, Trump supporters are stupid. And I've been guilty of saying that many times. But when you just look at the statistics of the average education level of a US American being sixth grade, it's like, of course, like the dumber you are, the easier you are to be controlled. And so this is why I think it's so important to um, be that guide for people, like, you know, um, and I'm not saying this because like I've got it figured out. I I come from a very Christian family, and like I said, like I showed my mom the post about Gaza bombing the church, and like talking to, and my mom is the more liberal kind of Christian. Like the other kind of Christians are um like way more conservative in terms of like gay marriage and stuff like that. But anyway, July 21st is, you know, and the nodes are relational because it's the intersection of the moon's orbit around us and our orbit around the sun. So when you have like anything involving the luminaries, the sun and the moon, it's a relational point. And I would say that everything in astrology is relational. It's how the planets talk to each other, it's who the planets are having a more harmonious time with and a more contentious time with. On July 22nd, the sun enters Leo. So happy solar return to all the Leos. And you want to look at your Leo house, and the sun is going to illuminate things and make things really bright. The sun is in its domicile in Leo. This is where the sun is at home. On July 23rd, the sun in Leo will sextile Uranus and Gemini at 0 degrees. And this is the first time this has ever happened in our lifetime. And this is really lovely. The sun in Leo, like I said, is in its domicile. It's in a 60-degree angle, which is in the nature of Venus to Uranus and Gemini. I don't know. This is like, I think this is really lovely. I think, see my computer, that's a sign from the universe. This is just really supportive. Uranus is about breakthroughs, innovation, of the mind, ideas. This is breakthroughs in communication. So I don't know. This is a great day if you want to make your like social media debut, your YouTube debut, or make yourself seen that day. That's a good day. And 0 degrees is um, for the cardinal signs, it's a world point, but it's at the very beginning of a sign, which is like a seeding moment. So this is something that you want to take advantage of. However, with one caveat, Venus and Gemini will square Mars and Virgo at 21 degrees. So a square is a 90-degree angle in the nature of Mars. So this is a conflict. So it's between your Gemini and your Virgo house. They're both ruled by Mercury. Virgo is pretty particular, detail oriented. It is very perfectionist in nature. It wants to like do the best job that it can, right? Mars and Virgo is like, it could be better. You could do this better. And Venus and Gemini is kind of this flirty, like, I want to talk to all the people. I want to have just like all kinds of conversations. And so those two things are at odds. Remember what I said in the beginning, that Mars is about action and Venus is about attraction. So these two houses are kind of conflicting right now. Um, and it could also just mean that you're overthinking, both signs are ruled by Mercury. Mercury is retrograde. Be aware of a possible X coming up, an X factor. And I always think that those are chances for us to have closure. So if this is something that, a breakup or something with a friend or a romantic person or somebody from your past comes up, it's always first, I always ask why. Why is this person coming? And it has nothing to do with the other person, by the way. It's like, what is in me that needs this closure that now the universe is bringing them back, and I have that chance. So you want to ask those things. And by the way, if you haven't gotten a journal yet, I highly recommend you do when I go through these dates, because it makes it so much I guess like more uh, what is the right word? I don't want to say useful, but for me anyway, when I journal these things, it makes me able to like, when I write it out in paper, like old school style, it helps me to internalize things, it helps me to integrate things. And then sometimes I even look back um and reflect on how much I've grown and things that came up during this retrograde. So that's something that you want to look out for on July 23rd, because squares are conflict. So you might be getting into argument with people. You might have differences of opinions or viewpoints, or yeah, like I said, somebody from your past might very well come up. Okay, Jul July 24th, we have a couple of major things happening. For first of all, there is a new moon in Leo at 2 degrees at 3:11 p.m. Eastern time. Now, this is the first decan of Leo, so every sign is broken down in 20, like 30 degrees. It goes from 0 to 29. And so the first 10 degrees is the first decan, the second decan, and the third decan. And this actually came from the roots of Egyptian astrology, from like the Egyptian tradition. And each decan has a ruler. So the first decan of Leo is Saturn. So knowing that, you know that Leo is all about your self expression and um, fame, if you want to use fame as a resource, or being seen, and like your creative output. And so, since this is the first decan of Leo, which is Saturn, now there's some kind of restriction or pressure. This isn't going to be as easy as you thought it was, or there's some kind of obstacle that you need to get through first. And this is represented by the Five of Wands in the tarot. And so all fives are conflict and change. And you can see that they are all kind of like trying to work as a team and get on the same page, but they are not. Some tarot card readers will read this as competition, which it can be for sure. But Susan, um, I love her work. T. Susan Chang um, says that with the Five of Wands, we enter the realm of Leo, the province of the strength or lust card. Here is the search for the limelight, the quest for fame and glory, the hunger for one's moment in the sun. But there is no victor without a tournament first. You can almost sense the blood pounding, the adrenaline racing. It's audition time. Reach for the beta blockers. Let the games begin. Um, some of us in esoteric tarot think of the Five of Wands as the pressure cooker. The reason is not complicated. You take the crushing weight of Saturn and the radiant steady heat of Leo, and the result is a kind of cosmic instant pot. Temper simmer, brows sweat, opposing points of view contend. Remember what I said about um, Mars square, Venus square Mars the day before this? So there's already this like pent up energy. People are not on the same page. They could be people who you work with, your family. Someone's just like not on board. Maybe it's parts of you, right? Um, Yet this is the contention of sport or debate rather than outright battle. There is a goal other than destruction. The purpose of this exercise, other than making a delicious pot au feu in no time flat, is to find the strongest, the fittest, the winningest winner of all. Um, And then if you know the tarot, the next card is the Six of Wands, which is about victory. So this is like an interesting new moon because new moons are about new beginnings, a seeding moment, a reset of the lunar, the moon essentially being reset by the sun. And but coming into this new moon, it feels like there's some kind of like there's some kind of pressure cooker. Like you feel like you need to get something done or you need to express yourself or put something out there or say something. Um, I actually wanted to show the chart for this because there's also other stuff going on, obviously, because full moons, I mean, new moons are never in a vacuum. Um, okay, here we go. Um, can we move this over here? Okay. So here we have the moon and the sun in Leo at 2 degrees, 8 minutes. Now, what's really sweet is on this new moon will first trine Neptune retrograde in Aries and then trine Saturn retrograde in Aries. So trines are 120 degrees between the same element, so fire. So there's something supportive going on here with this new moon. Of course, Saturn and Neptune are retrograde, so we're reviewing, reflecting on the things that we've been trying to imagine, co-create, dissolve boundaries from. But for me, Saturn and Neptune is like if Neptune is our dream and our imagination and what we're envisioning for our life, then Saturn is locking that in. And so if it's trying to the new moon in Leo, which the moon, I mean, like I mentioned, the sun is in its domicile, the moon is in the sun's domain. This is all about setting an intention of creating something that is truly authentic to you, something that you truly, truly desire. Now, desire's root comes from the stars, desirere or something like that. Whereas want comes from the Norse word to lack. And to do this, to really understand what you desire beyond what you think people will, praise you for, beyond titles, beyond achievements, beyond how much money you make, beyond your parents being proud of you, being on the New York Times bestseller list, Forbes 30 under 30, whatever it is, right? Like remove all that aside, like delete, wash it away. What is in your heart? What is that fire that burns in you that you desire deeply? And this is something that I constantly have to check back on because when I'm on social media, sometimes I'm like, gosh, I should be doing I should be doing more. I should be making more videos. I should be doing this, doing that, doing this, right? Capitalism has made us believe that more is better. And that is simply not true, especially when it comes to content creation. I constantly have to pull myself back and say, is this aligned to my capacity and my energy? And is this something that I truly want to do? Or do I feel the pressure, Five of Wands, of constantly putting stuff out there because I feel scarcity, because I don't feel like I'm enough? And if I just put out 20 videos on TikTok, then one of them will do well, right? So this process of checking in with yourself is what you should be doing. Okay, I don't want to say should because should is a heavy word. I suggest you do this reflection moment during this retrograde because when you get super clear on what your vision is and what you want to bring out into this world and what you are all about and what you want to do, everything kind of falls into place. I think Neptune is confusion when we don't know who we are at the spiritual level, at the energetic level, at the core, at the essence, because Neptune is this spiritual, um, universal love, compassion, energy, and it's also the fog, and it's also like the illusion and the veil that's cast over us. So it's best that you do that inner work to know who you are before somebody casts a veil over you and tell you who you are, basically. So I really like this. I really like that the new moon is in a trine to Saturn and Neptune. I also like that the new moon is in a sextile to Uranus, which gives it this like breaking through kind of energy. Like, this is something like new that I'm going to do. This is something new that I want to break through in. And I don't know, because they're all fire and air, it's like the time is now, basically. Like, I don't have a moment to waste. Like, um, one caveat, obviously, because there always is that the new moon is making and applying opposition to Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto in Aquarius is bringing out all the shadows of AI, obviously. Um, it's bringing out all the shadows of like, okay, when we say power to the people, what do we mean exactly? When we say make America great again, what does that mean exactly? Who are we making it great for? Who are we upholding these power structures for? Um, what I also like too is that Uranus is going to start to make trines to Pluto, which is very supportive. So I think that I believe that revolution, that energy of change is possible always, infinitely, for both the oppressed and the oppressor. It's up to the oppressed to know that we are oppressed and remember our worth, remember our connection to divinity. That's why in colonization, they colonize our spiritual practices. They try to convert everybody to Catholicism and Christianity. Oh, I could write a whole thesis about this, but yeah, there's some embedded in this new moon is opposing some like power dynamic, whether it's like you want to stand up to the man, you want to stand up to your boss, the CEO at your company, or you want to bring awareness to human rights. Whatever it is, this new moon is inherently about authenticity, Leo, and opposing Pluto and Aquarius. Remember, they go about it in different ways because Leo is like knowing thyself, and then Aquarius is authenticity within your group, finding your people, right? um and co-present with this new moon is Mercury retrograde. So yeah, I don't like to say I love or not love new moons, or full moons. um I think there's both a really supportive, um there's supportive energy here for planting seeds and setting intentions, but there's also this like underlying frustration or this underlying like annoyance that you might be feeling, that oh my god, I have to prove myself or I have to do these things. And um, because at the end of the day, we still live in capitalism. And so I know a lot of people that I personally know are like, how can we co-create something when when we're living in this thing that we depend on but we hate, you know? And I think that's what that energy is giving. So let's see if I had anything else to say about that. Yeah, getting clear on your vision really will help steer your ship. Um, And as long as you are authentic to yourself and the ways in which you want to be seen, you will get through this. Okay, so let's move on. On July 25th, this is when the sun will perfect its opposition to Pluto retrograde in Aquarius at 2 degrees. So when the sun opposes Pluto, something could be revealed to you, either in your own personal life. So you want to look at your Leo and your Pluto, your Leo and your Aquarius axes. Like, what houses are those? Because the sun like illuminates it, like it shines its light onto an area of your life. And then Pluto is retrograde. So it's retracing steps that it's been in since January. No, November 19th is when Pluto entered Aquarius. So something might be revealed to you. You might be triggered in some ways by uneven or like oppressive power dynamics. Um, you might feel like pressured to do something and you're like, ah. But ultimately, the opposition is in the nature of a full moon. It's 180 degrees. It's like the furthest away you can get from two signs. And the whole point is to be aware of something. Now, the question is when you're aware of something, what are you going to do about it? Because a lot of the times when you know the truth, you can't go back in the truth. That's what I always say. Like, I was telling my friend that I was kind of like really nostalgic, of course, Mercury retrograde, Cancer season, of a moment in my life where it was like, I would say 2014 to 2017. I was making a lot of money. I was living in the city. I was single again. And I didn't know about anything. I was in my privileged little bubble. And not that I would ever want to go back there, of course. But once you know the truth about how this world operates and how nefarious and evil some things are, you can't go back. You can't you can't like reprogram yourself. You can't like hide, because at least I can't. I know some people do, like people know what's going on and they choose like to be silent and they look away, but I personally can't. And so sometimes I'm nostalgic of those moments when I didn't know and life just seemed to be so much more simpler. But still, all of this was going on. Palestine, all these genocides and occupations and all these horrific things were happening. I just didn't know about it. That's very Sun Pluto opposition. And then all of a sudden, one day, you see it and you have a choice. You either do something about it or you don't. And I'm always like, it's better to do something with that awareness than sit on it and pretend like the world doesn't isn't going about the way that it is, because I think the way that the world is going is because good people said nothing. um but yeah, that is your astrology forecast for this week. And um I think it's such hey, listen, like, if you are a conscious, awakened person, you have talents and magic that you came here with. And don't say that you didn't, because you did. I know you're all talented. I think this is such an incredible time for us, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you're a healer, or you have your own business. This is such an important moment for us and an opportune time for us to create our businesses, attract our people, hold space for people, because things are only going to get more and more chaotic, and there's going to be so much more misinformation and AI, and no one's going to really know the truth. And so it's going to be so important more than ever to tap into our spiritual gifts, like our intuition, our discernment, and also be able to connect with each other, either on social media, technology, and also in real life, and really build coalitions together and communities together and be really, really strong um, and locked in about that. Because, like I said, um, the astrology and the historical moment that we are in is really saying that everything is about to change, and everything is about to change because it needs to change. And you all know, like, if you've been watching me for a while now, you know how I feel about this moment. I am not afraid. I am not kind of like burying my head in the sand. I know for a fact that I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. I am the change that I've been waiting for myself, but also I have done this so many lifetimes that this is the lifetime that I'm like, yeah, I came here to do this. And I know that all of you feel the same way. So anyway, I hope you have a beautiful week, and I'll see you next week.